Okay, so I've not heard from Sue Ellen. I did get some, we got a few additional comments on the the first page. And then I took the first page, I added what was yellow on that was what I had just received from Kip. So I sort of put it in the middle. I deleted some sections. I tried to put some framing around a few other sections, but I thought, we ought to just, Jeff, I don't know, what we want to do. I can put it up on the screen for people to look at. Do we want to do that?
I think
Marlene,
go ahead.
I made some edits earlier this afternoon. I don't know if it'll show up in what you have or not.
Probably not.
But
not.
I did the tracking, so everything's still there.
And you sent it to me this afternoon?
Whatever the link was that I had to the document. So maybe you don't have it. I don't know. When you open it up, it might be with my edits.
All right. Well, let me just find what I have. Let me just find the document and put it on the drive. Hopefully this will come up.
Hey, Jeff, did the peepers come out in your swamp today?
No, not yet. Well, I've barely been out, so it's possible, but usually I can hear them from my window.
Seems like a bit early, I guess, right?
Yeah, it seems like a bit early, but everything, it's an early year, but I still have snow on my hillside though. It's all, we face north, so it's still a little bit.
Yeah, I still have snow.
Yeah.
And I didn't think I had any more trees to lose, and I lost like a dozen trees again last week.
Oh no.
Anyway.
So are Kate's comments showing up?
I don't think so.
I can recreate them later if need be. It was mostly it was mostly just rewriting for streamlining some stuff.
Okay, well, and that's fine. So why don't we let's go back through where we are on the executive summary, just to make sure. So Kip took a stab at that one paragraph that we were trying to muck around with last week with respect to understanding the repair costs for some of the current stuff that's happening. So he took a stab at that, and he also added one more task.
Yeah. So my personal view is that I like the way he reworded that, longer sentence about the city council establishing us. I just think that's much better in the discussion points when we get.
Yep.
It just seems like it's, again, we had a bit of this discussion. Kate had to leave. She brought it up first, but I agreed with her. Although Sue Ellen was adamant that it stay, but I think it needs to stay in the document. It just needs to be part of the discussion. It just seems to, be, again, it's a little inappropriate there in my view. It's part of a broader discussion.
And that can be more part of like the more background in the first part of the, the narrative is maybe the better place to put that. So I'm going to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I continued. I agree. I like the way Kip has rewritten it. I think it's much better, and I would almost be okay with it staying here, rewritten in that way. But I do think that I feel like rather than answer people's questions, putting it in the summary creates more questions because so many people wonder why this got started. I think giving a partial answer like that makes people think that we are covering something up.
Right.
When if we just didn't even, if we left it till later, it just becomes part of the discussion.
Right. So I'm going to move it to after the intro, and that's where we'll leave it for the time being. So are we comfortable with, so I wanted to, so as I went back to look at the charge, it never in the charge document that we saw indicated, I don't think. So who is it that when we started talking about new revenue sources, where did that discussion start? I was trying to put that in context in my brain.
Well, I think that Mike Sullivan started something about, I think again, that the sluice way, what it's going to cost, and looking for money to see if it can perpetuate itself, the reservoir, by doing all these different things he envisioned, which I think we discussed that most of those are probably not going to fly. But I think it was Mike that was talking about raising revenue for the reservoir.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Okay. So does that make it more official?
Oh, I don't know about that, but
because that, because if he did mention it, I know we talked about it, but it wasn't like our initial charge. It was just, it came up at the first meeting.
Yeah, I think it was in there, but not said, maybe.
Right.
I think he implied that they were looking to do different things to, have the reservoir and the to make some money to go forward on its own. But
okay.
That's my memory.
All right. Yeah, I'm just not, for whatever reason, I wasn't remembering exactly when that came up.
I think Harry's exactly right. I think Mike brought it up pretty directly, and I think that we did consider this. We certainly looked into it. So
right.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Being there.
I also had a few conversations with him, privately out front of the store or whatever, and I'm not sure those exactly which ones of those we all are privy of, or he was mulling over in my mind, and I may want to keep my mouth shut at this point.
Let's see. So, and then let's just quickly go through the 4 conclusions and make sure we're all in agreement, at least those of us that are here.
Well, the last one there, development master plan, when I sent you something on Monday, I thought that it would be flow a little bit better, and also put concerned citizens.
I'll try to find it.
I can give it to you if you want. I got it here.
Okay.
It's just in the last bit, I suppose it should be it all. Develop a master area plan and vision for the Northern Holyoke, together with the establishment of an area-wide council sponsored by the city of Holyoke, which includes adjoining properties and concerned citizens of the Whiting Street Reservoir. So
okay.
Neighbors and also people that have an interest in doing something.
Concerned citizens?
Yeah. So I would think any kind of a committee is going to have to be more than just the surrounding people, I guess, right?
Right.
That makes sense.
Well, that gets to how we make this recommendation. We can state who we think should appoint this group, or we can just leave it open. The council might want create this. The mayor may want to, or we could recommend who recommend who we thought should be part of it. For instance, this committee was supposed to have somebody representing planning, somebody representing conservation commission, and then at large from the community. So we could have a similar type thing, but we don't need to be prescriptive like that. But it's an option for us, so we should at least consider.
Okay. All right. So protection, continue to assure availability of the reservoir for water, protect to allow only passive recreation, and then the master plan and vision. So those, if we're good with those, and we'll, we can continue to wordsmith. Go ahead.
Can I ask a question? I know that recommending looking into the conservation restriction is somewhat controversial. Or I know that the restriction itself is somewhat controversial, but I feel like that is something that might rise to the level of putting it in the conclusions, even as sort of a sub phrase of the first point, like ensure long-term protection of the Whiting Street Reservoir as a resource for the citizens of Holyoke, including researching the possibility of a conservation restriction. Or including considering the possibility of a conservation restriction.
Jeff, you're on mute.
Yeah. Why don't we say potentially through conservation restrictions or other mechanisms? Is that okay with, I think we need to mention conservation restrictions. There's no question. I think it will be in discussion. And so whether we say, how much we say here, we can make it strong. Some people think that we ought to recommend just right straight up front, that we have a conservation restriction on this. I felt that way until we talked to Dave Conti, I guess.
And I know he doesn't, he's like not, that, obviously he was not a fan. I'm being cute. He really hated the idea, but, we do get to have, recognizing what he thinks about it. I mean, things change and, I like the idea of saying, some other means, some other methods to conserve, but I think we really need to, just because we've always been okay with the Article 97 doesn't mean we're always going to be okay. So, I think we need to do this extra bit.
Yeah, I would just want the phrasing to be such that, I want the phrasing to read that we definitely want to ensure, we definitely want the first part.
Yeah.
And a conservation restriction is one means that we think would be good, but we want to phrase it such that even if the conservation restriction doesn't happen, it's clear that the larger goal of long-term protection has to happen.
Yeah.
I agree with that. So why don't you just get rid of potentially and just say through conservation restrictions or other means? Does that kind of work?
Okay.
Sure. Works for me.
Okay.
And we did tell Dave Conti we were very likely to still put this in here. But he, quite frankly, I think he will try to then, he will contest the report. And so we have to consider that, the impacts of that.
Well, let's see how the report gets laid out. And, we're going to get ourselves down the road a month or two. So.
Yes.
Yeah, the conversation I had with Dave in December, the same thing. He thought there was enough restrictions going forward, that the only development that could take place was for the water supply itself and going forward forever. But and he was definitely not a fan of the conservation restriction.
Yeah,
I guess, and I don't know this, but my guess is that this is the sort of thing that that someone who's been in the field for a while, I can totally see why they would feel the way he feels. But, you know, if there were new leadership, and I'm not suggesting by any means that he shouldn't be the leader, because he's doing a great job. But when the time comes and there's new leadership, I think people who've come of age in a more like sort of green energy framework might view a conservation restriction very differently and see it as kind of the basis from which you work rather than a new imposition. So I think our leaving it in there is also creating a blueprint for future leadership to follow, even if it never gets implemented currently.
I agree with leaving it in, don't get me wrong.
Again, we don't need to spend a lot of time on this right now, but it is an important point. And what I really think somehow the city has to come out and redouble its statements and intent that, that the Whiting Street Reservoir is going to always be protected for potential water use, or but as a resource for the citizens of Holyoke. And so they have to make a strong statement in that way, one way or the other.
Okay. All right. So, this will all be, sort of smushed to a page. I'm going to move this paragraph here. Wait a minute. Somewhere in here, like at the, in the beginning, sort of the background of this, right? So I'm going to nab the, have the info from before. I'll leave in some historical, we'll leave in more historical information. And, Harry, because I sort of, I don't want to be too prescriptive, but I think a certain amount of history is important to communicate, because I think a lot of people sort of forgot about Whiting Street. And I think a lot of people don't know about the relationship with Appalachian. So I think there's some really good context in here we can work off of. So Harry, I might have you pay attention with me on some of the history stuff too, okay, so we can get more stuff in there. And then I want to, we should think about, and I know Dave Moore's not here, but, and he was with us on that at the meeting with Dave Conti, but, so how much information or how we want to communicate the information with respect to whether they are or aren't going to be putting in the treatments and stuff like that. And, however we want to be able to communicate that, how much detail, timing, or whatever we want to share, we should have all that. I mean, I remember Dave mentioning that to us, but I don't remember any of the specific details about when or what or how.
Just a current event issue. I don't know if folks were watching, but I noticed that there were like 4 Whiting Street Reservoir issues on the city council agenda tonight, mostly relating to, I think, additional fines for certain activities. But I think but Lynn said she thought she saw that Dave Conti also may be there tonight to address some issues. So I don't know if others saw that.
No.
Or not, but again, most of the items that I saw were items from the ordinance committee, that were sent to the ordinance committee, and then they're back in council tonight, and they mostly address increased fines for certain activities at the reservoirs, not just Whiting.
Okay.
I know when I was up there last week, I was up there a few times last week, and actually with Dave Moore. And as we were going around, environmental police car showed up, and we were looking at the brick house on the dam, because I have an old photo, but I got Kate, I was showing her in the store, but that was backwards. We're trying to figure out if that was really the White Street Reservoir, and it is, but came out of a glass plate negative, and it was in there backwards. Yeah. So we were holding up this and that, and he pulls out, and what are you guys up to?
Exactly.
So it ended up that he had come in the store one time about a year ago. I don't remember for what. He doesn't remember. And then there was an incident at the ski area, and he was there with Dave Moore, and I won't get into that, but there was a little bit of a problem there at one time that went away. So I mean, they're up there going around, and he said that they're doing it because the local authorities aren't coming through the way they should, I guess.
Right, and so they're also getting paid. So Holyoke is paying the DCR police to be there.
Okay.
So
we're paying for a salary twice then.
Exactly. That's exactly that was also said that night. We talked about that.
I'm sure he's not double dipping, but we got double dipped off of.
You never know, though.
Yeah.
So at any rate, I did want to mention that. The other thing I will mention to you guys is that they did come before the Conservation Commission. And they're moving forward with this work for the spillway. So in other words, they've filed for a permit for the work, and the work is likely to take place next year. It would take the whole season. So they need May through September. So the permit won't be ready in time for them to do it this year. So it will be done next year.
Okay.
So they need to go out for bids yet, I guess, right?
Yep. And they need to get their permits first.
Yeah.
Okay. So that'll be a while.
Everything gets
again next May.
Everything gets delayed.
Let's see. So I don't know how much, I think we should talk about what's currently allowed there. So we can, fill that out a little bit, and that sort of, just currently what they allow.
Well, Marlene, how were you thinking about this? Were you thinking about letting folks take sections that they felt comfortable with, like, or do you feel like you're comfortable taking a shot?
Oh no, I'm gonna have, like I've already got Harry talking about the history stuff. Somebody, maybe Dave Moore would be the person to get whatever additional information that we want to fill in here from the waterworks, from Dave Connie. Maybe he'll do that for us. Do we think, I don't know how much more, like, for example, the activities section, that sort of stuff, I don't think there's not going to be a lot of time or attention on it. It's just going to be a report out of what's currently allowed. Maybe we can include some pictures of people like biking or cross-country skiing up there.
So let me ask, are you thinking, when you have that list of activities there, do you think there would be any description of those activities at all?
Yeah, not really. I don't think so.
So do you think there'd be discussion, so later when we have access, do you think there'd be discussion of where most people come in from, what the issues? Okay.
Right. Because this is more background. I don't think we need to fill it in. This is just, this is what's allowed. And then we did the public meeting, and these are the activities that are happening, and the things we heard from the landowners about, vandalism and graffiti and all that kind of stuff. And then we have the people coming in and wanting to talk about better access paths and more places for educational opportunities and benches and all that kind of stuff. So, so there's more discussion. To me, the discussion is down in that piece of it, talking about what we heard and what we think. as opposed to in the background. Unless somebody thinks we should spend more time on that.
I do think it might be useful to have a list of what activities are prohibited that people might think were allowed.
So in other words, currently prohibited activities.
Yeah.
And maybe we could do something where that non-motorized vehicles, including bikes and wheelchairs and whatever else may be, and don't lump that in one thing, because a bicycle is a non-motorized vehicle.
Yeah.
I don't know if we want to do that or keep it separate.
I believe one of the orders that's going to be in city council today is about which kinds of bicycles, because it's very clear there are certain categories of electric bikes are allowed and certain ones aren't.
Yeah.
I guess there's one kind of electric bike that is allowed.
Yep.
Yeah, pedal assist.
Yeah. So
Some
that
of
would
them,
be.
some are strictly like a electric bike, just like the old mopeds. You just throttle it up and away you go without pedaling.
So why don't we, so Harry and Kate, because I'm not the person that's going to be able to describe the different levels or ranges of electric bike power, things like that. Do you want to take a stab at describing, and Kate, maybe can you guys think through what we can use in there to describe differently or better? Of what people can and can't do.
Do we know what will be allowed or not allowed? Are we making recommendations, are we?
No, here.
Okay.
No. I mean, our recommendation is to continue to anticipate that they'll continue to allow just passive recreation and no activities in the water. Or, those are the things that are allowed and the things that aren't allowed. Passive around, nothing in, right?
Yeah, nothing. They don't want anything in there for sure.
Right. So, and that, I don't think we're going to recommend anything different,
So
even in the enhancements.
So what are we going to say about e-bikes then? Are we like I say, we making recommendations? You say no.
I don't know if we're making is there some level of bike power?
I think it would be simple enough to just, where you've got passive recreation, non-motorized vehicles, could say like parentheses, including pedal assisted bicycles, but not including electric bikes, or some phrasing like that.
Well,
yes, Harry and I could figure out.
Yeah, I think that's perfect there, okay? Because a pedal assist means it's not strictly electric. You need to pedal it to make it go. It's just giving you a little bit more oomph out of your pedal power.
Yeah, it's just that there is a specific term like category 1 or whatever it is, but we can figure out what that is.
Yeah, it has to do. Some of it has to do with wattages on the strength of the motor.
All right. Well, one of you guys should let me know the best way to make sure I appropriately describe pedal assisted bikes. And again, just on a list. So I don't think we need to be real descriptive, just informative enough to know that these are things that are currently allowed. Okay. And I think we also ought to add a bullet that's nothing to make, passive recreation, but nothing entering the water.
Yeah.
So someone doesn't say, oh, fishing is passive.
Yeah, that is.
So what did, maybe I missed it. So what did we decide to do with currently prohibited activities? Did we decide not to have that?
We should do that. I think we should do the currently prohibited.
That's certainly any water activities, right?
Yeah.
And I would bullet them just like below. And so, right. But I would call out both fishing. I would call out fishing and dog walking, because they're both, all the signage, and that's what's before the council tonight, to increase fines for those.
There's a lot of people walking their dogs up there.
There's a ton of people.
I hate to be the nasty lady doing that.
Yep.
We'll give you a badge, Marlene. You can find them.
I have a whistle. Down at my little kayak stand in Rhode Island, they gave me a whistle.
Okay.
Oh, you guys, I'm a pain everywhere. Okay.
How about
so,
kayaking? Why don't you just put boating? Because there's, I got a canoe or not a kayak.
Right.
You didn't say that.
Yep.
Of course, there's no swimming. So I do think you should say, all water dependent activities, because you're not physically supposed to. Is that, how do they state it? Isn't that?
I'm not sure. It says no swimming, I think. Maybe. I'm guessing though.
I don't know if I've seen that. Someone's going to think of something.
Yeah, something like around it.
Okay. All right. So let's get comfortable with this list. So currently allowed, currently not allowed.
Why don't we put all water activities first? Because all these other ones, swimming and fishing, are kind of subcategories of water activities, I would guess.
And dog walking could be kind of the last, since it's not water related.
Right. Yeah. I know my sister got thrown out of there years ago for riding her horse, so maybe that needs to be on there too. She did.
That would be a heavy throw.
Hmm.
All right.
So I know we're not there yet, but I will volunteer to write whatever section we need about the process we went through, getting input from the planning commission and their recommendations on what those might suggest for
And
possible
that would
uses.
be great, Kate. And then I thought we would use whatever report they gave us as an appendix.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'll do a summary of both the process and the recommendations.
Okay.
I feel like that's the part I should volunteer to write. So.
Yep. Now, do we need to or want to include the list of, this study process? We looked at all the legal stuff. We looked at the planning reports. Do we need to keep listing them? Do we have to bother doing that? Or do we just want to do a couple of descriptive paragraphs of things that we looked at?
I think, don't we have this? So that section, the legal considerations, don't we have it in another spot too? Because I think I felt like I fleshed that out below. Again, that needs cleaning up, but it's.
Of course, all of it does. So I don't have anything that's like just a description that I can find. Yeah. Go through your files, because it might be somewhere else, Jeff. And just not in this outline. And again, I think
Marlene, now that you're scrolling through it, I definitely have not seen all of this. I just saw the cover page. So if you could make sure that I get it, I'll start writing whatever portions it makes sense for me to write. And
here you are.
Just give me a deadline.
Right.
Here, I'm gonna. Here you go. You're here. I don't know why that's not yellow.
Because it has the red underneath
Direction,
it.
yeah. Yes. All right. Anyway. So things like everybody we talk to. I don't think we need to write up any of the specific comments we heard from anybody, but these are the list of the list of everybody we spoke with, and then a paragraph and list of the areas of common concern, for example. So everybody talked about, traffic, parking, speeding. I mean, all the things that, that people have in their notes that became our, there was a slide in the PowerPoint of like the issues, sort of that list of issues that everybody had identified that we used as part of the PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah.
That night in October. So this will end up being like a page, or does somebody want to do this? Somebody want to volunteer to write this section?
I would probably be willing to write that. I do think you need to add a new Q, I guess, and that because we have to make sure and say, concluding with, the public through the October 7th public meeting. So because it's broad enough above the statement to indicate who we talk to, we want to make sure and say, concluding with the public meeting. So in that list, it should conclude with, and maybe the heading would be a little different, but I just want to make sure we tee that up so we don't.
Okay.
Yep, that's fine. Again, I would put that as a new letter at the bottom, but we can deal with that later.
How are you? One more coming. Two more.
Nice to get greetings like that.
Yeah. Hi, baby. Hi. Yeah, wave at everybody.
Hi, thanks for the wave.
Okay, so hold this will be on the list. So we'll list who we spoke with. We'll list the gist of what we heard from people. And that will typically, I'm going to get some of that, I think, from that list of issues that we put together in that PowerPoint. And then these were sort of the series of issues, concerns that became that list. So I'll write up some paragraphs about that. Okay.
So Marlene, what were you saying you needed for the previous section that I may have unwittingly, volunteered for?
I guess, what do we want to do with, there were a bunch of reports that we looked at. Do we need or want to do anything? We need to list the reports we looked at. Do we not need to bother?
I think that does need like 3 sentences to describe that, there are no, that there haven't been any recent major studies of the Northern Holyoke area, and just to describe the present condition a little bit, and then we can say we did draw from these previously completed reports. So it just seems like it could use a couple sentences of description.
Okay, thanks for volunteering. Okay.
Go for your trash one.
Bye-bye.
See ya. We're going to the Moose Club.
Okay.
That's for Chicopee. That's for sure.
So Jeff, you want to take a stab at that?
Yeah, I can take a stab at that.
And I'll work on this one. Okay. Kate, you've got the planning commission stuff, right?
Yep, I can do that part.
Okay. And then, so that's all the background. And then I think we build out the 4 areas. So maybe what we want to do before we start, and Jeff, you've already done a fair amount of good work on the long-term protection piece. But why don't we, for the next piece, before we get to writing out the our recommendation areas, why don't we finish all the background in a place that we're all comfortable with? Does that make sense? And try to do that in the next 2-3 weeks, maybe give us 3 weeks.
That sounds reasonable.
That's unreasonable, Kate. That's unreasonable, Harry.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'll follow anybody.
Sometimes giving too much time just means it doesn't get done.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So I'll do 3 weeks, but we'll figure, I'll reshuffle through this. My computer's giving me fits tonight, like everything today. So I'll just reorganize the outline with the assignments in it and send it out to everybody with their assignments noted and highlighted right on it, so everybody knows who's doing what. And I'll have Dave Moore do the Dave Conti meeting information. Harry, I'll talk to you about the history stuff.
Okay.
But I'll reorganize this and get it out this week, and then we'll do our next call.
Sounds good. You might want to check with Sue Ellen just to make sure she can make the next meeting. Because remember she had some conflicting meeting, Tuesday night meetings.
You had some health things going on too, Jeff.
Okay. Yeah, so maybe.
And I haven't heard from her.
I have not either.
So I'll reach out to her. But my goal then would be our next do a call. I'm looking at my calendar.
I think it's April 5th is 3 weeks.
Yeah. You guys good with April 5th?
That'll work for me. The weekend after that, I have a meeting, but I don't have a meeting on the 5th.
All right. So let's do the 5th.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Well, that was helpful. Thanks for the quick meeting. Been in meetings all day. So I don't think I'm worth much tonight.
Yeah, and thanks for having gotten so much of it together already. For those of you who've done that.
You guys are all great. Let me just listen.
I was telling
well,
Mary that I was away for the weekend for work at a conference, and I came back and my mom was not in a great place today. So anyway.
Well, I hope that gets better.
Me too.
Hope Sue Ellen does too.
Our prayers are with you.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Welcome.
Yep. That's tough to hear. All right, you guys, I guess we're running away.
We're running away. April 5th will be, tentatively April 5th. I'll call Sue Ellen tomorrow and see what's going on.
Okay.
And I'll send everybody the outline and extended notes before the end of the week, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
Yep,
Good night.
Bye, guys.
Good night, all.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.